A man's story of family, love, and faith is really resonating with people. In a piece on FoxNews.com, he shares a moment of affection with his wife and his 7-year-old daughter's surprising reaction.
Yeah, he writes, "I took my wife's face in my hands and I kissed her. After I pulled away, I looked over and saw my oldest daughter's face lit up with adoration and her eyes filled with tears. 'Why are you crying?' my wife asked. 'I can't explain it. Can you at least give me one word to describe how you're feeling?' I asked. My daughter paused, looked up at us, and she said, 'Loved.'" Well, joining us now is the writer and speaker and dad of 3, Joshua Rogers. Joshua, good to have you with us.
Good to be here.
So tell us what happened. I mean, everyone wants their marriage to be perfect. It never is. You're always doing your best. You were at a place where you really wanted to make things better with your wife. So what did you do? And tell us how that reaction played out with your daughter.
Well, I'll say that when my wife and I started out, we were friends. There was passion there, but there was just so much bickering. We were always wrestling for control. And we just decided when our little girl was born, we had to change. And we didn't know how to change, but over time we did. And that was a process. It's still a process. But as we began to change, we just became more affectionate. And we didn't realize how much it meant to our kids until that morning when we were dancing in the kitchen.
As a father of 3 daughters, I can tell you, they're sponges and they see everything you do. And one of my points of emphasis with my wife is always to be very, nurturing and caring, because what you want is you want your daughter to grow up with this sense of what a relationship can be like or should be like and what they should expect. So as your daughter is raised, you're setting an example for what you want her to see in her mate later on in life.
Yeah, and in fact, last night I decided to ask my daughter, I said, "Hey, you remember that time that you said you felt loved when you saw your mommy and me dancing?" And she's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Can you tell me why it made you feel loved?" And she said, "I guess it's because when I see you and mommy loving each other, it makes me think our family will always be together because you're never going to break up." And it sets a good example for me.
That is so sweet.
Can you believe it?
That is precious. It reminds me back, I'm one of 7 kids, and whenever my parents would get affectionate, which they did all the time, we would always, in unison, "Oh, you guys are so annoying." But as I grow up, and now I'm married, you realize how much that does impact you. And as you would say it was annoying, you still loved that and you learned from that. What reaction are you getting now, Joshua, from people? I'm sure social media has gone wild with your piece.
I have never had so many Twitter reactions in my life.
Really?
One of the things that I've heard, and I've gotten a lot of emails too, is just people feeling a lot of frustration with themselves and saying, "I didn't really think about how this was affecting my kids. I don't think I'm loving enough to my spouse." And I think it's true. And I think the problem is just like me, you get your parent hat on and you get your spouse hat on, and the spouse hat is like, "Look, we just got to get these kids in bed." That's what you feel like all day. But you don't realize there's so much overlap there. Your kids have got to see you loving each other if they're going to grow up and have a model for what it looks like to love somebody else.
Yeah, when you think about a marriage and a family, it's a relationship between everybody. When they see that relationship working and they see the care and the love and the affection within it, it just brings about so much more positivity and such a better, direction for everybody. Whereas, in a relationship where people are bickering, it does create negativity. So the example that you set isn't just for your child, but it's also for your friends around. Have you seen your neighbors or close friends notice a difference in you and your wife as well?
Oh, yes. My family members in particular, they used to actually see us bicker quite a lot. And, this all changed in large part because I went to some friends and I said, "Look, I need your help. What is it really like to be around me?" And one of my friends said, "You know what? Actually, I feel embarrassed sometimes when I see the way you talk to your wife." And it hit me pretty hard, and I began to pray different prayers. I used to pray like, "God, fix her" prayers, and it became prayers of, "God, how can I change?" And that place of humility, both in me and my wife was praying similar prayers, just resulted in this outgrowth of affection, and now look at the life that it's bearing with my little kids.
I love that. Joshua, it's a story that we all need to hear, and we wish you and your family and your marriage all the best. More love all around. We love that.
Absolutely. Live by example.
Yeah, thanks, Joshua.